Before we dive into this jaw-dropping trade proposal, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a beat on all things Chicago Bulls. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming up. It could be the most pivotal moment for the Bulls in years. Now let's talk about the Chicago Bulls and the potential for a game-changing move that could redefine the entire trajectory of this franchise. The Bulls have found themselves in a challenging position, hovering between rebuilding and trying to stay competitive in an increasingly tough league. With Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, and Lonzo Ball forming a trio that represents a previous era of Bulls teams that frankly have left fans wanting more, it's becoming increasingly clear that something needs to change. But here's the twist. Each of these players is tied down by a significant contract, making them difficult to trade. LaVine, in particular, has been pegged as nearly impossible to move, given the size of his contract and the perceived value he brings to the team. However, as any savvy NBA fan knows, where there's a will, there's a way. The Bulls might be on the verge of pulling off a blockbuster trade that could shake the very foundation of the team and send shockwaves throughout the league. Imagine this, a deal that involves not just one but two key players, Vucevic and Ball, in one bold move, potentially bringing in a superstar who could elevate the Bulls to new heights. Enter Karl-Anthony Towns. Yes, you heard that right. Karl-Anthony Towns, the superstar big man from the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is where the story gets really intriguing. The Bulls management, led by the sharp minds of Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley, should seriously consider engaging the Timberwolves in trade talks for Towns. And here's the kicker. Minnesota might just be more open to this idea than you'd think. Why? Because the Timberwolves have shown that they can still be competitive without Towns on the court. With the depth provided by Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid, along with the rising star power of Anthony Edwards, Minnesota has options. While they aren't actively looking to shop Towns around, they're certainly willing to listen to offers that make sense for their future. So what could the Bulls offer that would make Minnesota sit up and take notice? This is where things get even more interesting. The Timberwolves currently have a notable lack of depth at the guard position, especially after the departure of Tyus Jones. Meanwhile, the Bulls find themselves with a surplus of guards who are ready to make an impact. This creates a unique opportunity for both teams. Chicago could put together a package that includes Vucevic, Ball, and the promising young talent of Ayo Dosunmu, all in exchange for Towns. At first glance, this might seem like a lopsided deal, but let's dig deeper. According to ESPN's John Hollinger, the proposed trade could actually result in 2 additional wins for the Timberwolves based on the official ESPN.com trade machine projections. This is a significant consideration for a team that's looking to stay competitive in the short term while also setting themselves up for long-term success. For the Timberwolves, this trade would bring much-needed balance to their roster. Vucevic would step into a crucial reserve role, providing depth behind Gobert and Reid. Meanwhile, Dosunmu and Ball would add valuable ball handling skills to the team. While there are legitimate concerns about Ball's health and his ability to return to peak form, the potential upside of this trade for Minnesota cannot be ignored. The addition of 2 competent guards would address a key weakness in their lineup, making them a more well-rounded team overall. Let's consider the implications for the Bulls. Acquiring Karl-Anthony Towns would address a glaring need at the center position, one that has plagued Chicago for some time. Offloading Vucevic and Ball, 2 players who have been difficult to move in previous trade talks, would be a significant victory in itself. But the real prize here is Towns, a player with the potential to transform the Bulls into a legitimate contender in the Eastern Conference. His ability to stretch the floor, combined with his defensive presence and rebounding prowess, makes him an ideal fit for what Chicago needs right now. And here's another angle to consider. If the Karl-Anthony Towns experiment doesn't pan out for the Bulls within the next year or 2, Chicago could always put him back on the trade market. Given his skill set and the demand for versatile big men in today's NBA, Towns would likely fetch a considerable return, barring any major injuries. This trade could set the Bulls up for success not just in the short term, but also in the long run. giving them the flexibility to adapt to changing circumstances. At first glance, this trade might seem far-fetched, a pipe dream perhaps, but the more you analyze the situation, the more it becomes clear that this move is not just plausible, but potentially game-changing for both teams involved. The Bulls could finally take that next step towards building a team that can compete at the highest level, while the Timberwolves could gain the balance and depth they need to make a serious run in the Western Conference. This is the kind of bold, outside-the-box thinking that could redefine the future of the Chicago Bulls. It's a high-risk, high-reward move that could pay off in ways that fans can only dream of. But as the saying goes, fortune favors the bold, and this could be the moment that changes everything. If you're as excited as we are about this potential blockbuster, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay updated on all the latest Bulls news and rumors. You won't want to miss what's coming next. We've got plenty more in store for you as we continue to follow this developing story.